Welcome to the Inside EcoDevo podcast, where we highlight economic development happening in the state of Missouri. I'm your host, Eric Thurman, with the Missouri Department of Economic Development. On this episode, we're speaking with our members of DED's working teams for the Missouri's Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, also known as CEDS. And we got some people sitting at the table here that are going to help with the discussion, and I'll let them introduce themselves. To my left is...
Hi, I'm Kristie Davis, and I'm the Division Director for Missouri One Start, and I'm leading the talent team for the CEDS.
Kristie, I think you've been on the podcast a number of times. Good to have you back. And across from the table for me is...
My name is Rachel Anderson, and I'm the Executive Director of efactory at Missouri State University, and I have the privilege of leading the Innovation Working Group.
Well, guys, thanks for taking the time to sit down and talk about all this. I'm sure it's going to be a great discussion. So as we said, we're going to be talking about our working teams. We'll kind of just dive right in. Tell me about your working team. When we say a working team, what are we talking about? What kind of work are you guys doing? And Kristie, we'll just start with you.
Sure. So for the talent team, we're focused around some key issues related to several buckets. We're looking at workforce development and what are our educational and training programs that exist and how can we better align them with business need. We're also looking at our educational partnerships and programs and how we can better connect our education and training providers with local businesses. We're looking at skill gaps and how the talent we have now and the talent we're going to need in the future, and what does that gap look like, and how can we, address that and mitigate that. And we're also looking at talent attraction and retention efforts and how we can do a better job as a state to retain our employees as well as, attract new employees to the state.
And Rachel, how about your team? You said you were on innovation. Tell me about the innovation team. What are you guys working on?
Innovation's a big topic and covers a lot of areas, like you just already heard with talent and how everybody's looking at things through an innovation lens. And so our group is comprised of individuals from a lot of different backgrounds, which I think really lends itself to a strong, strategic planning and CEDS innovation working group. And so we have people from entrepreneurial support organizations, Chamber of Commerce, university R&D, investment fund leaders, small business development center leaders, people from rural areas, urban areas, corporate innovators, entrepreneurs, and more than most important is, everyone's really looking at things from a problem-solving lens.
When we're saying innovation, are you guys looking at, we're thinking outside the box? We usually do things this way. We're going to try to maybe do things this way. Is there a definition that goes along with the quote unquote innovation part of your guys' job? Or yeah. I should say work, not job.
Yeah. So I think that's a really great question, and one that often comes up whenever you hear the word innovation. And so I kind of joke back to the governor's conference when there was a slide up there that says, how many of you in the room, are the one that usually suggests a crazy idea? And so I think that is the people in the work group that we have too, right? And so they're people that have been practitioners that have worked around entrepreneurship support or corporate innovation or those university R&D for a long time, but it's also people that are coming up with new ideas, things that, haven't been created yet, that we have to do something different because maybe there isn't a blueprint for it, but maybe our state is uniquely qualified or has the opportunity to be a leader. And so we want to make sure we're capitalizing on that. And so, again, lots of different ground, but anything from funding and data. So, proof of concept funding. How do we incentivize more angel investment? What does an innovation dashboard look like? And what is the makeup of companies here in Missouri? And how do we know that more in real time? Should the state have a revolving loan fund or what does that look like? Entrepreneurs are a lot of different types of businesses and different stages and require different resources. So anything from Main Street programs and how to revitalize downtown, which again has crossover with some of the other areas, but also resource directories, what it takes to, start a business or grow a business in a rural area is different than, some of the support you might receive in an urban area. And so looking at what a rural-focused entrepreneurship program for our state might look like. Also looking at the role that our, research institutions and universities can play and how we can commercialize even more new technology and connect to, corporate innovation in a more strategic and meaningful way. Also celebrating innovation, right? So looking at some of our peer states that have really premier conferences, events, innovation weeks, ways to, highlight the work that these entrepreneurs and innovators are doing. How can we connect talent back to Missouri? So maybe somebody's from here or has a tie to Missouri, but hasn't been back in a while or doesn't know all the neat things that we have going on. How can we strategically tie them into what we're doing and really tie into that talent work group? We're also looking at, ways that we can expose people earlier to see that entrepreneurship and innovation are pathways, no matter what you maybe do after you graduate or go right into the workforce. But there's always, that entrepreneurial and innovation mindset that we want people to be exposed to, in particular through that K-12 education.
All right. So the sky's the limit on what you guys are looking at. Lots of different areas there. I know the working teams have only met a couple of times. I think you guys are going to meet as of when we're recording this tomorrow. But so far in your guys' meetings and whatnot, what kinds of discussions have been happening? What kinds of work? What are you guys finding out early stages right now?
So for the talent team, some of the things we're diving into on our education partnerships that we have a great network of universities, community colleges, career technical centers across the state. We have a lot of different programs and resources, really trying to align those better so we can better serve companies, better serve our Missourians in providing the training that is needed. Something else that we have dived into a little bit is the diversity around our state and what that looks like. And in some areas, we could be more diverse than what we are. And how do we attract talent to be more diverse? So those are some of the key things that we've kind of learned in some of the research that we've gathered, is really kind of those different aspects of rural versus urban, suburban, and how talent fits in that. For the state of Missouri, each region of the state is different in its makeup and its business climate and what that looks like. And so addressing that needs that diversity. It needs the support of a strong ecosystem, from our educational systems to our workforce development programs. So all of those across the state, and how, again, we can better align our systems that we do have and find out where we need to create additional maybe resources to help address needs that we have a gap in.
It's been so great getting people from different areas across the state looking at everything from an innovation lens and what we could be doing. And so we had 3 virtual meetings so far, with our in-person meeting tomorrow that I'm really excited about. But not everybody even knew each other. And so getting to see the connection that was taking place as we were, identifying problems, looking at other models from other states and proposing solutions, and really just coming at everything with a what-if mindset has been really inspiring, and also really neat to see people with those different mindsets and backgrounds coming to the table. So talking about things that maybe we've tried, or maybe somebody tried in their community, and why it wouldn't work at a statewide level, and just the inspiration that's bringing, and I think what's next. And so I just can't say enough good things about DED, including innovation as part of the CEDS planning and strategy, and think it's really going to make our state stronger.
From both of the lenses that you guys are looking at this, talent, innovation, it seems like there's some overlap there. That's kind of why we paired you guys together. But from those areas, what do you guys see as Missouri's biggest strength when it comes to your specific area?
When it comes to talent, I believe talent can be both a beneficiary and a driver of an ecosystem that's created by community, innovation, infrastructure, and business development. So when a region invests in its infrastructure and supports business development, it creates a cycle that's continuously attracts and retains and nurtures talent. And conversely, the presence of talent in a region fuels the growth across the areas, ensuring long-term economic stability and competitiveness. So when we look at innovation, and innovation kind of draws talent draws innovation. So there's that connection between both of them that really supports the growth. So even within a community, if you have the infrastructure that's put in place and the different attraction, you're going to bring people into that area. And when you have people in an area, that's going to drive innovation. When you have strong education systems that attracts people not only from our state, from outside the state to come to our great institutions and be a part of Missouri, and then building upon those ecosystems that come from that drives innovation. So they're all so linked together, and one helps the other and supports the other in different ways. So when you have strong talent, it also drives a community to build up their infrastructure to support that talent. And vice versa, if you have a strong community and infrastructure in place, talent will be attracted to that. So it's very neat, and I can't wait to bring all of our working teams together and just looking at what we each have kind of discussed and discovered and how we can better align across the board when it comes to innovation, talent, community, infrastructure, and how that we each of these working teams play a part in supporting the other.
I completely agree. I think it all intersects, and I think that that's why it's been really exciting to be able to have the focus, but then to also intentionally identify the overlap and see where those opportunities exist. We've all known, or at least the people living here, right, know how great of a state Missouri is to live, work, and play. But I think even after coming out of the pandemic, people have more choice in where they live than they ever have before. Advancements in technology, but then also the focus on living in a community where you want to live, work, and play. And so I think that that's something that Missouri has really capitalized on and can continue to do more. We're obviously in the center of the nation, and so it's easier to get places. The infrastructure that we have here is really notable. It's a beautiful place to live. The people here are genuine, hardworking, and really great. And so I think when we look at on a national level on where people are going to choose to, start their companies, grow their companies, expand, are all going to be things that tie into infrastructure, talent, incentives that the state or region can offer. And I think that that's how we can win, by looking at how all of these interlock and work together. The secret's continuing to get out. I know Kristie's program's been recognized on a national level, but so have lots of others. The Wall Street Journal has also ranked multiple Missouri cities in the top 10 of remote work friendly places. And so I think as companies continue to look at where they want to locate, but where people decide they want to live and start and grow their businesses, again, it's all connected. And I think that talent in particular is just really important, and how we can be really strategic about making sure Missouri's the winner.
And when it comes, this kind of piggybacking off a lot of that there, and I know it's early days for CEDS and the working teams, but how do you guys foresee the work that's going on in the working teams contributing to the development of CEDS, which is then going to help give that kind of blueprint for economic development throughout the state?
I mean, what an exciting time we are in right now. With everything going on, we have a new administration coming in. We just came, from, COVID, and we're building back up, and some places excelling, beyond where we were when COVID hit. But with the new administration coming in, I think everyone is excited about the path forward, and I'm excited about CEDS and the opportunity of coming together and just really putting some of the best minds in place and thinking through how can we be better tomorrow than what we are today, and putting CEDS in place and looking at all those key aspects that we have. Rachel hit on so many great things in her last comment, but we have a great state, great quality of place. We have a very strong talent and workforce in the state of Missouri. We have great communities. We're ranked in many cases, as Rachel was mentioning. So putting together a plan that can help guide how we move forward, I think, is very exciting. And like I said, we've brought together some great people from across the state to help contribute to that. This isn't just a silo plan. We've brought together some great individuals from across the state, for-profit, not-for-profit, government agencies, to kind of put together a plan of what are some of the best practices that are out there? What is the research telling us? What can we do better in? What are our strengths, and how can we capitalize on those? So putting together this plan is just going to make us as a state stronger. It will give us put together recommendations on how to build us so for the next 10 years, laying that groundwork in place and hopefully as a path forward. So I'm really excited about the opportunity it's going to give the state of Missouri and our citizens and, for all of our companies and individuals really helping Missourians prosper.
Yeah. And then from the innovation side?
It's funny I'm even here to be real honest with you. I think my mindset around planning used to be, I have a strategic plan. It's called doing things. And then I really took a look at the importance of those plans, right? And how to make a big difference. And so conscious decision of, moving back to my hometown of Springfield and how I can wake up every day excited to do my part in moving our community and state forward. And I really believe that entrepreneurship and innovation unlocks opportunity really for everybody and makes us better. And so, I was really inspired by all the great work that came out of Best in Midwest and Talent for Tomorrow, looked at the Show Me Strong Task Force Recovery Report, the Catalyzing Innovation Report, and all of that really led us to the creation of our Southern Missouri Innovation Network and the power that I see in what takes a good plan, right? And so I'm just really excited about the future for our state. It's been absolutely thrilling to work alongside other leaders at the Missouri Department of Economic Development and just see the intentionality and thought process and all the work that's going into this. And so I'm more excited about, what's going on in our state government maybe than I ever have been before. But then also to see the energy that all of these people are bringing to the working groups because they are also bought in, and the energy that that's going to have not only for, potential new policies and or process improvements, but then also ways that we can go after larger federal dollars and bring those back into communities all throughout Missouri.
As it was mentioned already, it's kind of early days still. You guys are still meeting, but any kind of insights, any kind of, things you guys have discovered through your meeting so far that's shareable that you guys can maybe give context to the listeners?
I think I shared a little bit earlier on, diversity, I think is one of the things that we realized also we have, again, great educational institutions throughout our state. We have great opportunities, but some areas of our state, they might have to travel a distance to go to that career tech center or to go to wherever that training site might be. And so recognizing that the needs in each region of the state is a little bit different, but accessibility to those assets are also important. So kind of diving into what that would look like and understanding that when it comes to talent specifically, and again, the changes in technology that are happening so rapidly, how are we able to be as a state and through the programs that we have, be flexible enough and be adaptable to adjust wherever those needs come. And when you're in a rural area of Missouri where transportation might be a challenge, how do we address that? Or if childcare is a challenge, how do we address that? So those are some of the things. I don't know necessarily that they were new, but something that needs to be addressed, and how going forward, how can we ensure that there's accessibility? How can we ensure that there's flexibility and adaptability where they need to be? How can we ensure that training is available to individuals who might not have the transportation or they don't have the childcare there for them? So it's really diving into some of those challenges that we know we already have, but putting together a plan or addressing, well, how can we mitigate those challenges? How can we, again, do better in ensuring that that training is available for everyone, that upskilling, so everyone's able to prosper within their career?
Same sentiment came out of our group. Just how can we make sure that the same resources and opportunities are available really for everyone throughout our state? But then we also were able to look at some, initiatives or programs or policies that even some neighboring states might have that we don't. That's maybe having us miss the boat in some areas where we don't want to miss out on that and we can do better. And so I think we were able to identify some of those. Also really look at programs and policies that are working really well that maybe we need to promote more, make sure that everybody has, access to those. And then also just the power of collaboration and really bringing, different people to the table to talk about some of these, big ideas, but also how to solve these hard problems and different ways that we can partner together to do so.
Kind of mentioned, the states around us and whatnot. Are you guys, I don't know if this is part of your guys' deal or not, so if it's not, let me know. But are you guys comparing Missouri with our peer states? And if so, how are we ranking up against them in talent and innovation?
So we do. Yes, we have looked at our peer states and where we are, and might not be a surprise, but Missouri ranks at or near the U.S. average when it comes to in-migration and out-migration patterns. When it comes to talent, we ranked 17th among the U.S., and that was a light cast when it comes to talent attraction scorecard. So, there's areas where we definitely can improve. There's some of our peer states, they have several different types of retention programs and attraction programs. Their training programs might be set up a little bit differently. And so we have taken that into consideration as we're looking at Missouri and what fits Missouri, and looking at those best practices from our peer states and where we're currently at and how we can improve to make those better. But that is definitely something that's been in the research that our working team has went through.
Same. We looked at, neighboring states and policies and programs that they have, what they're doing to attract and retain those entrepreneurs and innovators. Tulsa Remote's one where they pay you $10,000 to move to Tulsa, which, from Springfield is just 2 hours away. And so those are, very real things that we were taking a look at and seeing if we should look at similar models or where there really is that opportunity. And I truly think Missouri is the best place to start and grow your business. You have this landscape where you can pilot something, fairly easy and then also, expand it and get that opportunity to see what it takes to implement it in both a rural and an urban area. And that doesn't exist everywhere. And so I think we just have so many great things going for us. But I do think it's really healthy to reflect and see what, other states are doing, make sure that what we're offering is competitive, but then also looking at states really throughout the nation. And so we didn't just limit it to, bordering states. But I do think that we came up with a lot of really good ideas, and I'm sure even more to come, and super excited for what's next.
It sounds like up until this moment, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you guys are kind of in the data gathering, information gathering mode of your working teams. Is there going to be a moment where the working teams go, okay, here's what we have found, here's our suggestion for implementation of action of, solving an issue or of, fill in the blank there? Are you guys going to be proposing like, hey, let's make a number of programs, or let's do this or do that? Or is it like, here's our data, you guys run with it now?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a strategic approach to the next steps and what that looks like. And you're right. At this point, we're gathering the data, we're gathering the research. We've, again, put together some great teams from a broad outlook of things that they're working on, programs that they have from their point of view, maybe again as a for-profit, not-for-profit, as a government entity, and bringing all of that information together. I think the next step is which of these steps here, which of these strategies make sense to go forward? Which ones can we implement? Can we implement some of these easily? Does it take, a new program? Is it a statute change? What does it look like? So I think, the next piece of this will be really, synthesizing what we have put in place, the challenges, the opportunities, what strategies go along with those, and then what makes sense for us to go forward. And that's going to be a lot more meetings ahead, but that's the next step. So hopefully what we're doing now is gathering the information that's needed to go forward with that next step and making a decision on which recommendations might go forward in the future. Missouri One Start, it came out of a recommendation from years ago from the state plan, putting together a program that offers more robust training. And from that, it took about 5 years, but from that came Missouri One Start, now a division within the Department of Economic Development. So strategies that are put forward today, they won't necessarily happen tomorrow. It takes time, and it takes effort and planning and what that looks like. So again, hopefully we're laying the groundwork, the foundation to build upon in the next coming years, and again, to strengthen Missouri and our economy.
Agreed. So we've been following a very similar process where we've identified, let's say over 30 different potential strategies. And then our group's going to be meeting in person to try to narrow that down to let's say 10-ish we want to focus on and, really spend more time on. That doesn't mean other ideas aren't going to be included. Everything's really going to be considered. But I agree with Kristie. It really takes a good plan to see action. And some of those lenses will look at, what are some quick wins, but also what are those long-term investments that we want to make and should be making now so that we can see a more prosperous Missouri.
I know in both of the areas that you guys are looking at, there's a list of materials and list of things that you guys are considering and looking at. But, and sorry to put you on the spot, but would you say, or could you narrow it down to what is the number one most important thing in your area that you could pinpoint?
There was an article that I read that in the next decade, we are going to be about 6 million workers short over the next decade. And for me, that kind of keeps me up at night. Who knows what the actual number is going to be? But that is not going to take a single approach or one strategy. It's going to take multiple strategies and different types of approaches to be able to address that. So for the talent team, again, going back to being flexible and adaptable, and how can we put together a structure that is flexible enough and adaptable for the new technology and for where people are located and the resources that they have. What can we put in place in order to meet those needs? With
6 million worker shortage, I probably said that wrong, the terminology and whatnot. Would it be safe to say the number one focus then is the talent? We got to make sure we have boots on the ground, workforce there. Obviously, a lot goes into that. You know, it's not just, hey, we said that one thing and there we go. There's probably a million things of sub-bullet points for that, but getting the workforce there, right?
Well, you're talking to the lead of the talent team. So obviously I'm going to say talent is that differentiator and that factor that definitely plays a role. So yes.
Yeah. Okay. Didn't want to put you on the spot there, but you know.
Rachel will probably say the same about innovation too. I think they both kind of lend a hand to each other.
Right.
I think what's been most inspiring to me really throughout this journey has been, again, the intentionality around it, and then also realizing that this plan isn't something that lives on a shelf. And so there has been a lot of research, a lot of data. We know some of the things that are working well. We know some of the things that are not, but we sure as heck know if we're going to make a difference or do something, we can't just sit and think that the data is going to change on its own. And so, again, I've just been so inspired about the leadership at DED and the intentionality and people coming around from the state to say, we want to make this the best place that it can be. And also realizing, even though we're putting together a 5-year plan, right, we don't know what even next year is going to look like in its fullest. And so to Kristie's point about how do we create this framework, but how do we create it so that we can be adaptable and flexible? That's also the core of innovation, right? And so how do we continue to think about things like that on a daily basis where we can make long-term investments and can be forward-looking, but at the same time, make sure that we're not missing out on something that's happening tomorrow.
And Kristie, this is a question more for you, since you do head up our Missouri One Star team who does training and all of that, and talent's kind of in that. How do you foresee Missouri One Star kind of overlapping with the work that's happening in the talent team? Is there golden nuggets that you're taking from one that you can put to the others, or, you know, is there crossover there that's helping?
It is very interesting and it's exciting because with the training programs that we have this year, we actually brought on 2 new programs, the credential training program and the intern and apprentice recruitment act program. It just gives another nod to understanding when we have a need, how even with the current administration under Governor Parson, seeing the need to, again, keep saying it, but the adaptability and flexibility of training individuals where they're at and upskilling. So for us, the talent team and the different pieces of picking out, you know, where there is need, I now have programs through Missouri One Star that can address talent needs in any industry. So with our typical training programs, we had certain industries that we could only serve by statute. Now we have 2 additional programs with the credential training program and the intern apprentice recruitment act that we can serve any industry. So for healthcare, for example, we'll be able to assist and provide resources for individuals to get a credential within healthcare and help build them up. But so working with the talent team and understanding where those skill gaps are and understanding that there's programs likely available that might just need some adjusting to meet that need is exciting. And so being able to see the research, being able to get the feedback, and we're not working in a silo at DED and putting things together. It's really a partnership across the state with key entities providing feedback on what can we do better. Sometimes we see things through only our lens because that's all we know. But by having this working team from, again, across industry and sectors, it's bringing in different perspectives and helping us look at the programs we currently have. We have that there, but can we make an adjustment to make it better to address this need? So I'm excited about what the talent team is bringing forward and taking the programs that I know that I have under Missouri One Start and maybe making some slight adjustments to meet a need that maybe I didn't know existed until the talent team. Same thing, I believe, for other programs within our state agency. We have a lot of great programs, but how do we leverage them and align them to meet that need? And that is something that I feel like we can do better on. So not just with Missouri One Start, but with the Office of Workforce Development or with, Department of Social Services or even Department of Corrections. All of these state agencies have workforce programs. Is there a way that we can better align our resources and better connect and work together to address the needs that's there? It doesn't necessarily mean we have to create a whole new program. We might already have that program there. It's just not being utilized at its full capacity. And so with this talent team, understanding what those needs are really can help us here at the Department of Economic Development, Missouri One Start, say, you know what, I believe I have the capacity to be able to make this change and address that need. And here's how we can go forward. Or here's what we can propose to go forward as a new decision item next year because we're hearing this is a need. So it really gives us that leverage to be able to move forward in a strategic way. So I'm excited about the talent team again and what's bringing forward. Same with innovation and with community and infrastructure. We have a lot of resources in place. Can we utilize those resources and expand them, or do we need a new program? And that's, I think, what this is going to tell us.
I think you might have just answered my follow-up question, but my follow-up question extends outside of DED. So I'll ask the question in full. And if your answer, Kristie, is still the same, then that's cool. How do you guys foresee the work happening in your team and throughout CEDS from what you're seeing, leading to improvement within DED and then outside of DED, since we have both perspectives sitting here at the table? And Rachel, we'll go with you first.
I think Kristie's answer really, summarized my inspiration and why I've been motivated throughout this entire group, because you just heard how the leader of talent for our state through DED is thinking about everything through an innovative lens. And I think that that's what it's going to take for Missouri to continue to improve and win, right? And so it's that continuous mindset. It's that, entrepreneurial mindset, innovation mindset that is, not something that everybody else has and not something that we should take for granted. And so the people that we have and the programs that we have are really phenomenal. And I think that that's a key advantage that we have. We found similar things in our working group, right? That we had some really great programs through DED and through the Missouri Technology Corporation, but maybe there's ways that we can unlock some of those, resources for even more people throughout the state, or maybe we need to put more energy or strategically align some of those programs to, other key areas. And so how do we better connect it to talent? How do we better connect it to infrastructure? So as we're, looking at rural communities and maybe a building that's been vacant in their downtown area, how can we also look at it from an innovation lens? And maybe there's a coffee shop that can also double as a co-working space to be that place that also has fast internet. So the person that's choosing to live in that community, that needs, that environment has it and continues to foster and create that culture truly of, innovation in everything that we do. And so that's what I've been really most motivated by, is just that I think these themes really trickle into the mindset that everybody that's working on the CEDS plan really does have, while still being able to be focused, but then looking at everything from the diversity of our state truly as an advantage. And so it does take really strong rural communities. It takes really strong metro communities. It takes really solid infrastructure because people are choosing to live in these communities and, demand and frankly expect, a certain quality of life. And we want to deliver on that. And so I just think that it's not been a siloed approach at all. And I've just really admired the process and inspired about what's next.
And Kristie, I know you had kind of similar there. Did you have anything you wanted to piggyback off of that?
Well, I think just the approach with this, with the different working teams that we have, we brought together, like I said, a group of individuals from a variety of different expertise and background. And that wasn't by mistake. So building that collaboration and building that buy-in of, what we currently have, what challenges we have, how can we do better? Also then, those individuals are able to bring those back to their groups who they work with and champion different aspects or bring in different ideas, but it really not keeping everything in a silo, but really branching out, building that collaborative working space. And I believe we have done that under the current administration. I believe we will do that going forward in future administration, of that collaboration of working not only across state agencies, but working across, again, other entities, profit, nonprofit, just all sectors across Missouri, because that's what matters for our state. Our state is made up of, mostly small businesses, right? And having their perspective along with large employers, along with, other types of entities, really brings together that perspective of collaboration and buy-in as we build this out.
When I was speaking with our data people for the industry cluster, they had made the comment that, when they look at data across Missouri's industry sectors, they can look at it and go, yeah, that looks like Missouri, based on, because they're used to looking at that. Based on your guys' areas, talent and innovation, and you're looking at the data and you're getting feedback and all that stuff, was there anything that was surprising to you guys? Something that was a little, I wouldn't say shocking, but you're like, oh, that's interesting. We didn't think that would look that way. Anything kind of stand out that was interesting or notable? Or was it all kind of following suit where you're like, yeah, that looks like Missouri?
I think for the most part, it wasn't nothing that was surprising, but seeing the numbers again on the diversity, I think that was one key factor. The other thing, again, looking at our peer state and the amount of investment per student that we have in the state of Missouri versus some of our peer states is not as great. And mostly that's due to the federal, we don't take as much federal dollars for some of those areas. So I think the amount invested per student was a little bit surprising to me. But overall, I wasn't necessarily taken off guard by the data that I was seeing, but it just kind of solidified some of the stuff that I had thought to be true. So we do have a lot of work ahead of us, but I think we're moving in positive directions. But those were probably the two things that stood out.
And when you say investment per student, what kinds of things are we talking about there?
So amount of state dollars, federal dollars goes into the education of a student.
Okay, so that could be like covering any number of things.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Okay. From the innovation side, anything surprising there, Rachel?
I don't know if this was necessarily a data point, but something that we really looked at is, surrounding states. And so I'll use Oklahoma and Arkansas as examples, have really made innovation, entrepreneurship support, a pillar of their economic development strategy. Iowa and Ohio and Tennessee and others are no different too. And so to look at then what the intentionality of developing those strategies has done and the large amounts of federal funding that they've been able to bring in to support those initiatives from multiple different agencies will truly be something we look back on as, a tipping point or a game changer, a moment in time. And so I think that the fact that we had innovation as a working group and the fact that we looked at this, the fact that we looked at different, industry clusters and areas, and that we had people who were leading, these efforts for our state, so that are leading some of the tech hubs programs, who are leading some of the R&D at different universities, who are leading what, innovation and entrepreneurship support looks like, is going to be something where I think we'll look back to this year and see, already in some of these areas are bringing in large amounts of federal funding, but I think we're going to double down on it because now we're being really strategic and connecting to different resources. And then my hope is also connecting to those other states. And so then I think what's going to be possible from a true regional, approach to solve some of these big problems, but also where we have unique opportunities is really going to be forever a game changer.
I know you guys as individual teams have been meeting. Is tomorrow, at the time of recording this, by the time this comes out, this meeting will have already happened, but at the time of recording this, is tomorrow the first time all the working teams are together?
It is. It is.
Okay. What are you guys expecting? What is to be done? What are you hoping comes out of tomorrow?
So tomorrow we really get an opportunity to look at what all the other working teams have kind of prioritized. We're going to look at the top strategies from each of the working teams. We're also going to look at if there's any correlation between some of the challenges or opportunities that we have with talent and compare that to infrastructure, community. So we're going to look at each of the different teams, what they've been working on, what they're putting forth as their best strategy, where we overlap potentially. For example, for talent, I mentioned some barriers, transportation, childcare. Well, that's covered by one of the other working teams. So there's overlap there that is going to happen. So again, going back to the next step is, of all these strategies, what can we come out of the next step and move forward in? So that's what tomorrow is. It's really about getting all of our teams together, looking at what challenges we have in place, looking at what strategies we want to move forward on. Rachel mentioned earlier, what quick wins can we do? What are some of those long-term investments? What are those moonshot strategies? What do they look like? Again, just making sure that we're moving forward as a state and continue to have an outlook that propels us that way.
The part that I'm excited about is, we have talked about, some different problems, some different solutions, but to be able to start focusing. So to take those, 30 plus, potential strategies or ideas and using technology, right? We're going to get to see in real time what everyone votes as their, let's say top 10-ish. And then from there, in a, system that's going to be very real time collaboration, get feedback from other teams and then see potential areas of overlap and crossover. And so to be able to bring experts from around the state in so many different areas to talk about these in a really structured format, but to be able to leave the day with some of these, takeaways in a really meaningful way is going to be just really exciting.
Okay, one final question. This is probably kind of goes in hand in hand with what's going to come from tomorrow with you guys, but obviously the work's not done. The work's not done after tomorrow. There's probably going to be additional meetings and all that. But once the working teams have, put the stamp on what they're doing, what then? When the work's complete and you hand over whatever it is you guys hand over, what then?
I think I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but from my perspective, I'm hoping what strategies we put forward and recommendations we put forward, our working teams will take that back to, again, their groups, their place of business, whatever that is, take it back and champion that strategy going forward as an effort in seeing the bigger picture. So I think after tomorrow's meeting, that's not the end. We put together, again, some great individuals with a lot of experience and background into these working groups. And I'm sure we're going to continue to tap their knowledge and their skill sets as we move towards the next phase of this whole process. They just bring so much knowledge with them that, again, we will continue to tap into that, hope that they will champion whatever comes out of this and help move us forward as a state. Again, we can't move anything forward in a silo just within DED. It's really going to take a joint effort across of many different areas in order for change to happen.
Agreed. Some of these ideas, there might be, a clear champion and maybe even a clear pathway because, some are good ideas that maybe we just haven't done and should do and implement and will be those quick wins. But for those longer term investments and or, those true collaborative strategies, it's going to take lots of different people. And that's the part that I think makes us really special. It is going to take state government. It is going to take universities. It's going to take those 2 years, those 4 years, those large corporations, those small businesses, but everyone really looking at these strategies of what's next, but then to also champion those and then to, look at how other states have used, CEDS strategies to go after those larger federal dollars to be able to just bring more money back to our state and more money back around those strategies to make them possible, to work with those, regional planning groups in cooperation because, each region also has their own CEDS strategy. I think it's just going to be really exciting to have it all aligned. And so ways that we can align, of course, local, regional, state plans, but then to go after pretty large federal initiatives as well.
Well, thank you both so much for sitting down and giving us all this great information. I know there's a lot of work happening that isn't probably going to be covered in this small podcast, but hopefully we've given a look to the listeners on what's going on, and hopefully great things come out of it. So thank you both for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Inside Eco Devo. We have great episodes coming your way every 2 weeks, so be sure to subscribe. Also, we want to hear from you, our listeners. Tell us what economic development topics you want to hear more about. This helps us fulfill our motto of helping Missourians prosper by bringing content to our listeners that they want to hear. Leave a comment on an episode or send an email to ded.communications@ded.mo.gov and stay tuned for more Inside Eco Devo.